Today we're going to be talking about 7 observations on leadership. The instruction of Jethro to Moses provides an outstanding basis for organization. In Exodus chapter 18, we find these words, "Now listen to me, and I will give you some advice, and God be with you. You be one to represent the people before God and bring their cases to Him. Instruct them about the statutes and laws, and teach them the way to live and what they are to do. But you should select from all the people able men, God-fearing, trustworthy, and hating bribes. Place them over the people as commanders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They should judge the people at all times. Then they can bring to you every important case, but judge every minor case themselves. In this way, you will lighten your load and they will bear it with you. If you do this, and God so directs you, you will be able to endure. And also all these people will be able to go home satisfied." Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything that he said. You see, in this passage, there are basically 7 observations on leadership. The question is your leadership influential or positional? It's been said that leadership is influence. This is a correct statement. However, many leaders are leaders by position. They think of themselves only because of who they are and where they are. And they don't look at the influence they have over people. They think their leadership is largely positional, and that's where they're going to stay. But people will not follow you beyond your stated position. For instance, if you're a pastor and your people are looking for an investment broker, your leadership's not going to provide the help they need. So you have to look at these observations. First, the people will rely on the leader as long as the leader lets them. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Lead well and smart. It says, "The next day Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood around Moses from morning until evening." They would rely upon him regardless of what he tried to do. It's as if that Moses saw himself as the most important person. And can you imagine what it was like to have 2-3 million people stand in line every morning wanting to get to the leader? Well, that becomes pretty hard because the leader has to be influential enough to use other people. And so we look at the first observation, that is that the people rely on the leader as long as the leader lets them. But that leads us to number 2. The leader's agenda cannot be controlled by the followers. You see, when Moses' father-in-law saw everything he was doing for them, he said, "What you're doing is not good. Why do you alone sit as judge before the people?" And Moses relied to his father-in-law because the people come to me and I'm important. God needs me. And so I come to them to inquire of God. Well, that has with it a lot of implications. But what happens is that the followers absolutely controlled the agenda of Moses. Moses couldn't govern himself. He couldn't decide who he was going to talk to. He couldn't decide what cases were more important than others. The people lined up to see him. And so he followed them no matter what they did. The third important point is this. No one wins when the leader tries to do everything. And that's what Moses tried to do. He tried to do it all. And his father-in-law says, "What you're doing is not good." And he said, "You will certainly wear both yourself and these people. You'll wear them out because the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone." So no one wins when the leader tries to do everything. And that's exactly what Moses was trying to do. He's trying to get everything done. And he didn't know who he could rely upon. So that led Jethro to number 4. The leader must spend time with God. He said, "Now listen to me. I will give you some advice. And God be with you. You will be the one to represent the people before God and bring their cases to Him. And that's exactly what Moses wanted to do. You see, he needed to spend more time with the Lord. How many times have I heard a pastor say to me, Steve, I need more time with the Lord. These people control me in every situation. I remember as a young pastor, in doing my daily work of counseling people in the church, I mean, they would come to me and I would line them up and they would wait and I would talk and talk and talk. And we had this visiting pastor one time come and talk to our people about missions. And while he was talking, I said to him, the next night, I will not be here with you. I have a whole line of counseling cases lined up to take care of. And I need to talk with these people. They're relying on me. And he said, well, I am from South Africa. And in South Africa, we do things a little differently. When people come to be counseled, and he says, I assume it's marriage counseling. I said, you're right. It's marriage counseling. He said, we just look at them and say, repent. And we let them repent. And then we move on. Well, what that said to me was, my time was too valuable to take up with tedious things, that what both people probably needed to do in their counseling session was to confess their wrongs to each other and move on with their lives and let God heal them. I needed to have time with the Lord. I didn't need to have all my time taken by people who weren't going to do anything about their lives anyway. The truth of the matter is, as pastors, normally when people come to us for counseling, they've already gone beyond the point of help. But we can just give them a very sound advice. And so after that, as a pastor, people would come to me and say they wanted counseling. And I'd say, what for? And they'd say, well, we need marriage counseling. And I would bring them in and I would simply let them air their situation. And I would say to them, you just need to repent. And we would move on. And so the leader must have time to spend with God. And the more I spent with him, the more wisdom he gave me about these cases and how important they really were. And number 5, the workload will decrease when people that are good people are selected. He said, but you should select from all the people able men, God-fearing, trustworthy, hating bribes. Place them over the people as commanders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And that's exactly what Moses did. He chose the right people. See, when you select people that are good people, who we don't worry about bribes today as much as we worry about people who are good at what they're doing, and give them responsibilities, then they do the work that needs to be done. Why should we as pastors or leaders take up all of our time and minister to everybody? I've come to realize over the years that as pastors, we are more pastors than we need to be. You see, the average church in America runs about 75 or 80 people, maybe 100, 200 members. But they'll run about half that on any given Sunday, sometimes less. And they do that because that's all they can handle. They can't handle any more than that. If they're going to be a pastor, they're going to have enough people that they're going to pastor. And people are not going to stick around. But when you become a rancher, then your whole process of doing work changes. You see, a rancher will have people under him. And they will select people that they will work with. And they will have a certain amount of people. You've heard it said, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Then why are you spending time on the 80%? Just spend time on the 20% and give them the responsibilities of dealing with the 80%, and they will do that, and they will do a good job with it. But you've got to give them a chance. He said, they need to judge the people at all times, Jethro said. Then they will bring every important case to you, but they will deal with the minor cases. And this way you will lighten your load, and they will bear it with you. And that's what many pastors need. They need to lighten their load. And so just invest yourself in the top 20%, find out who they are, give them your time, your resources, your influence, and then release them to do the work that needs to be done. Let's look at number 6. The leader will be responsible for the big decisions, the big ones. That's what Jethro tried to tell Moses. You just take care of the big ones. And that's the way it needs to be with the pastor. He needs his load lightened so that he can give his time to what the Apostle Paul said, or what the early church leader said, to prayer and the ministry of the Word. And that's our example. Jesus said that we are to take care of the people, but we do that by taking care of those that are the leaders that are most important, and then let them take care of the others and let them do their work. And in this way, they lighten the work, they lighten their responsibilities. Now, number 7, everyone wins when the leader shares responsibility. Jethro said, if you do this and God so directs you, you will be able to ensure or to endure. Also, these people will be able to go home satisfied. Isn't that interesting? When Moses stopped having the people take care of everything and he having to take care of all their problems, Jethro said the people will go home satisfied because they're not waiting in line all the time waiting to get to you. It has been said, it's not if you control your calendar, it's who controls your calendar. And if you let the people, they will control the calendar and make sure that you are busy. I remember as a young person in Kentucky, a young pastor many years ago, our home that we lived in was a parsonage, and it was about 1.5 miles from the church. And I remember one of the leaders in the church saying to me, Pastor, we need to have a talk. And so I said, okay. So we went to the office. He and about 3 of the other deacons sat down with me, and they said, we went by the house this week, and your car was at home. What is your car doing at home? Why aren't you dealing with all the people and all the needs that they have? And I said to them, that's very simple. I have to go to seminary every day, and I'm not going to take care of all the needs of the people. That's what you do. That's your responsibility. I'm investing in you so you can take care of the people. And they said, oh, okay. We just wanted to know why your car was home. And I said, well, now you know why it was home. You see, everybody wins when the leader shares responsibility. If you don't share responsibility for your people, nobody wins in this situation. And they go away hungry and unsatisfied. And you need to make sure as a leader that their needs are being met.